So, hello everyone. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jan Tinsley. I'm a businesswoman, an entrepreneur. One of my absolute most favourite roles is that I'm a granny to seven gorgeous grandchildren. And I'm also a business coach consultant. I absolutely love business and I love helping people in business with their own businesses. And I'm so fortunate because I have such a wonderful sort of balance in my life. And I think by living life, loving family life and social life and all that kind of thing, and loving business the way I do, I always feel like I'm better at both because of each other, if that makes sense. So these things that I've sort of come up with, we've got these 10 points, and they are things that have helped me. So they are practical, they're actual, they are holistic, and of course they're in retrospect, because I've been in business for sort of 40 years. I've been in business most of my working life. So what I'm able to do is to be able to kind of look back and reflect on some of the things that have happened, good things and bad, and worked out some of the things that really did work for us when we were going through challenging times. And of course, so there's been success and there's been some not so successful things. But as with all things, we learn from them, or we should learn from them. So this is something that hopefully I'm going to be able to share with you now. So the first thing on my list is take a risk. So we're talking about facing a recession, beating a recession. And it might sound slightly sort of counterintuitive to say take a risk when there's sort of all this doom and gloom and rhetoric about, you know, what a challenge it's going to be in business and so on. But for me, I think it's really important that you do keep that as an option. So it might be something you just want to go all in, and you're going to create something new, you're going to create a better future, and you're going to step into the unknown, if you like. And I'll just give you an example of one of the times that happened to us when we took a risk and it really paid off. We've taken lots of risks, I have to say, but as this was sort of our first big risk, I thought I'd just share this little story with you. So it was when the interest rates went up to 17%. And that was after we bought our first house. We'd had our first daughter, she'd just been born, and the interest rates went up. In fact, I can tell you it was the 17th of November, 1979, an awful long time ago, and because my daughter was actually born on the 16th of November, but the very next day, the interest rates went up to 17%. Now, we didn't actually sort of feel it immediately, but I had taken maternity leave and already decided I wasn't going to go back to work. So it was as soon as that payment had stopped, we felt the pinch immediately. We couldn't afford our mortgage. We couldn't carry on with just one wage. And we had to think about doing something pretty radical. And that was the point where we bought our first business. John and I both got good, steady, solid public service jobs. And most of the family thought we were completely mad. Quite a lot of our colleagues, actually, some of them thought we were mad as well. But some of them actually were really supportive and patted us on the back and good for you. And yes, have a go, why not? So that was, like I say, in 79. It only took us 4 years from going from the point where we couldn't afford to pay our mortgage, we could hardly pay our bills, to 4 years later, being able to buy a beautiful hotel on the Shropshire-Welsh border, a lovely country house hotel that had squash courts, tennis courts, and 4 acres of ground, and it was absolutely beautiful. The rest of that is a completely the story, but it's just an example of taking a risk, and it's something that I do encourage people to do. So the second thing is, it's to do with money and it's to do with finance. And I'm just going to talk a little bit. This one might just be a little bit longer than the others, but don't panic because they're not all going to be this long, but I just feel it's so important. The money aspect, the finance aspect is so, so, so important when you're in business. So I'm saying manage debt and your borrowing costs. I'm saying think about turnover and profit, because lots of businesses, they say, oh, our turnover is this, and it's gone, it's 100,000, now it's got to 200,000, but they're still not making a profit. And this is something that I really urge companies to look at, because what you might have to do is to rethink your income model. So these things are all around finance, and sometimes it's about survival, and this is what your finances do. But if there's one thing that you do in business, or life for that matter, I'm really passionate about this: always protect your ability to borrow money. Always protect your credit score. Always make it so that you've got a fantastic set of accounts, because at the end of the day, that's all that counts. If you want to borrow money, a lender will want to see your set of accounts, and they want to see a healthy profit. They want to see steady income. They'll want to see affordability. And if you want to sell your business, again, that's also something that any lender or any buyer will want to see. They'll want to see a healthy set of accounts. So for us, talking about recessions, we started a property project in 2006. We bought the headquarters, international headquarters of Coutts & Co Bank, which is here in the Isle of Man. We're all from the Isle of Man, so we know that's in Onken. And we bought it when they'd moved the banking out, and we decided we were going to turn it into luxury apartments and do a fantastic job. Now in 2006, well, it was the end of 2006, so 2007, the property market was amazing. It was so buoyant, it was absolutely bouncing. And so this project for us was going to be quite a short project. It was going to create this amazing facility, amazing residence, and we're practically going to sell off plan, because that's how quickly property was moving. What happened in 2008? Don't know if any of you were affected by this, but we had the massive financial crash. We had the property market crash, the market crash, we got investments, it was like 25% was wiped off immediately. And we were left with this amazing project, fully committed, planning permission through. We'd started to rip it out. We'd sourced all the wonderful materials and everything we need. We created a team, and then crash, the market collapsed. And of course, one of the other things we were left with was a big loan from the bank. And they were really cruel. The banks were very cruel on a lot of property developments, and a lot of them just simply didn't survive. They were called in by the bank. We know that there were cranes literally sat for like 2 or 3 years because the businesses had basically gone bust. What we did was a bit of quick thinking, because when the property market was so bad, the rental market was really good. So I decided to take 3 of the apartments and I turned them into rental apartments. So I finished the carpets, curtains, finished them absolutely beautifully, fitted them out, bedding, furniture, towels, pots, pans, cutlery, corkscrew, made sure everybody got a corkscrew, and immediately they were rented out. And what I could do then was I could go to the bank and say, I've got some income. Here is our income. I've got 3 rentals. We are getting close to being able to service this debt. Excuse me. So immediately I did that. I straight away did another 4 apartments. And at that point, I was able to go to the bank, because I had to ask them for a bit of leeway, because we were supposed to be selling these properties and paying the bank back. And of course, we weren't selling anything. So with another 4 properties, I had a really healthy income. So I was able to go really firmly back to the bank and say, I can now fund this. I can service this loan. So I was able to pay the interest. And every 6 months, we were able to review them. They gave us 6 months each time. We were able to review the facility, and I could show them, I did a spreadsheet. I could show them at 5 months. I could tell them that the money was being serviced, and we managed to keep that facility until we did our first sale, which was in 2011. So you can see that sort of how important it is about managing your debt, managing your borrowing, rethinking your income model if you need to, and understanding your turnover and your profit. For us, the turnover, because we spent so much on servicing the loan, the turnover was almost irrelevant, in that we needed to sell the apartments to pay the bank back, and slowly, thankfully, the property market came back, and that's exactly what we did do. Of course, COVID, that got people being a lot more creative, coming up with ideas about what they could do with their business. I know my two daughters, Sarah has two restaurants, the Forge and the Abbey, and she got really creative, closed the Abbey and created pods with her staff, so that they could keep a service going from the Forge and keep the staff engaged, because it was really tough for people staying at home. And in hospitality, people really aren't used to staying at home. So she created 3 pods, and they were able to do takeaways from the Forge, and they were able also to do like grocery boxes and this sort of stuff. And what this did was this serviced her suppliers, so she kept her suppliers with no clinics could be open, and that was the point where they started to concentrate on their online shop. So you see, there's lots of ways that businesses could get creative, and I'm sure lots of businesses did, but it's really to manage your finances, and I think it's the most important thing for a business to do. Okay, I promise you they're not all that long, but I just think the finance side of things are so important, especially potentially working on the survival of your business and potentially rethinking your income model. Excellent. So number 3 is find a mentor, a sponsor, a supporter, or a coach, or all 4 if you can. The main reason I suggest that business owners do this is because you need some form of accountability. Now, you can moan and groan to your husband or your wife, or you can listen to a sound off with your friends, or you could take advice from somebody on the golf course or at one of your classes or something. I really recommend you don't do that. One of the worst pieces of advice we ever had was from the golf course. But anyway, because you want to be able to have some sort of accountability, and I really encourage you to do this. Now, we were very fortunate in one of our businesses. I'd been to visit this very well-known businessman in the UK, and I told him about our business, and he took a really great interest in it, and he effectively became our mentor. In fact, he practically adopted me and John as sort of little like a business. Well, he was like our guru, if you like, but he was really strict with us, and one thing he wanted to know is how much profit we were making. And I would send him details about customer service and how what our turnover was and this kind of thing. And he said, I'm not interested, just tell me about your profit. But that really gave us focus, because we were almost like mindlessly just growing the business, go. And we weren't thinking about any sort of efficiencies or anything in the business. In early days with businesses, I think you do have to do that. You've got to build up your customer base, and you've got to do also many tasks. But he did keep us focused on the profit, which really sort of paid off for us in the end. And we were able to grow organically, but we were becoming profitable, and we realized how important that was. So if you're fortunate enough to know somebody who you would be accountable to, and is prepared to sort of help you and have some regular meetings, maybe weekly or monthly or something like that, or to get yourself a coach or a consultant who is going to be able to help you and provide that accountability, I think it's really important for anyone to do that. We just got so lucky with that. And it's only after we'd had that experience that we realized how important it is. And now I think there's so much support available from so many different angles. I think if you can find somebody that you like, somebody that you can be accountable to. So number 4, get strong and brave. And the reason I put this in is because we've all got history. It's very easy to sort of think, oh, poor me, or maybe even go into victim mode because some things have happened to us in business and in life. And we, at one point, did lose everything. And so it's been very easy to sort of wallow in that and to think about the things that had gone wrong and some of the people that were involved. But instead, we started to sort of regroup, if you like. And the reason why I say get strong and brave is because you've got to look after yourselves. You've got to get physically strong. You've got to get mentally strong. And you've got to think about your health. You've got to think about your well-being. You've got to think about some sort of program that's going to get you on track. You've got to look after yourself. And then from that position of strength, you can find new ways and you can find new paths. You can find new ways of doing things. You can start getting creative. And I'm just going to give you a very, very simple little example of why I think this is so important about looking after yourself and feeling strong and brave. So Christmas Day with my big family, we they all come to me. There's 13 of us, and we just go for it. It starts about 1, we eat about 3, and then it carries on well into the evening with sort of more food and games and so on. And both my daughters ended up saying to me on this particular Christmas Day, just gone, wow, Mum, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and look at you, you're still going, and like, what's happening? Well, that sort of thing doesn't happen by chance. I had just done 4 months of a healthy eating program, a physical fitness program, workouts, and so on. But I'm using the example because that's what we need to do. We need to be prepared, constantly prepared, because when you're expected to perform, you've got to rely on the fact that you are physically strong, mentally strong, and ready for business. Because this isn't a doddle. Being in business needs some stamina. So I'm really urging you to look after yourself and get strong and brave. Okay, number 5. This is about a kind of a rethink. Because when we lost everything, we really did have to rethink. We're talking about retrain, reorganize, re-engineer, reinvent yourself. And this is all about learning new skills, business practices, starting to build on your own personal development. And from this personal development, I mean right across the board. For us, John completely retrained. He retrained as a financial advisor. I went back to part-time college and did my postgrad at Chartered Institute of Marketing diploma. And we just did everything that we possibly could to equip ourselves, if you like, with some new skills. And as a result, we were able to start then another business. The importance of this, I think, when we started doing this, of course, it was tapes. You played tapes. We borrowed all these lovely educational tapes and played tapes in the car. Now, of course, it's fantastic because you can listen to podcasts, you can network, you can do webinars. There's just so much information about. But this is what is going to prepare you for your transformation. And this is also about self-awareness. And this is why, for me, learning NLP was absolutely transformational for me. I love Mind Valley. If you go online and see Mind Valley, I don't know if they even call it Mind Valley University now, but there are so many programs and quests and things that you can do now with this. I like Tony Robbins. I love reading. I've got so many different books. Anything from all the business academia right through to the law of attraction and some more spiritual type learning. the thing for self-awareness, there's so many things, and of course, Susan, you're dealing with insights, you know, anything like this, strengths profiling, insights, anything. When you're learning about yourself, you can always develop yourself. I'm a personal development junkie. I'll never, ever, ever stop learning. And I think I can honestly say, I can look back and say that this held us in such good stead, because we were open to developing ourselves. We weren't put down by the fact that we'd lost everything. We were open to learning and growing and changing and reinventing ourselves. So at this point, Justin is going to say, breathe. That's
breathe, Jan.
5
breathe.
things that we've got on our list. I don't know if anyone would like to comment on anything or ask a question, or any ideas or anything I haven't made clear. Then please ask, and then we'll crack on with the other 5. You okay?
Just while people are thinking about that, I'd just like to add my own endorsement for learning as we go along. Podcasts, especially the ones I am listening to avidly at the moment, are Darren Brown, all about how your brain works and how you fool yourself. Greg McKeown, which is about essentialism, and focusing on the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference. Greg McKeown also has written a book called Essentialism, New York Times bestseller. And I heartily recommend that to anybody who, like me, is guilty of wanting to do too many projects and wanting to start lots of things. Yes, Susan, I'm looking at you. But oh, okay, and Emma as well. Wanting to start lots of things because they're really exciting and shiny, and oh wow, that could be great, couldn't it? Oh, wouldn't that be fantastic if we did that? And you end up simply with too many irons in the fire and not actually getting anywhere with any of them, because your attention and your time is spread across so many projects. So I thoroughly recommend Essentialism by Greg McKeown to what's the phrase, cure you of that. I'm not quite sure that's the right phrase, but it's to help you think through what is it that's most important today, and just keep repeating that. And of course, it's more complicated than that. Yeah.
By who? Sorry, Justin.
It's Greg McKeown. That's McKeown.
Okay.
Greg McKeown. Essentialism.
And that's a podcast, right?
Well, he does. Yes, he does do a podcast, but it's also a book.
Okay, thank you.
And it's an audio book actually as well.
Perfect. Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Downloading now.
Kindles are wonderful, aren't they? Amazing. So did anybody have any other questions or any comments they want to make?
I think maybe just say thank you so much, Jan. You've been very honest. We have missed just little bits now and again, but I don't think we've missed the substance. It's just your connection is coming and going a little bit. But I mean, I think the substance that definitely I've got. Just a bit about you saying that you lost everything. You don't need to go into the details, but was that out with your control then? And were there any lessons that you would want to impart?
It was out of our control, and subsequently there was some really things that weren't well, practically fraud, to be honest. But the one thing, thank goodness, that we've done, because there were some things that were happening that we weren't really happy with, and this is why these things are just sort of snippets of what has happened, because there's almost a backstory to almost every one of them. But I will just mention this, that fortunately, a few months before, my husband actually because it was when we got our beautiful hotel, and he actually got a job, and it was selling paint. Well, if you don't know my husband, but I can tell you, if you give him a golf club, a tennis racket, a squash racket, a table tennis, anything, he's a whiz. If you give him a hammer or a spanner, or worse still, a paintbrush, he's dreadful. And he actually got a job selling paint, which we all thought was hilarious. But little did we know, because this was then sort of going to support the businesses, also had the benefit of a company car, that when everything really went pear-shaped, what we did have, our lifeline was, he'd got a salary, and so we could get a mortgage. And, you know, it was just that one little sort of part of, because we effectively lost the whole shebang with the hotel. But I'll tell you about that another time because there's such a huge amount of learning, and it sort of got worse before it got better. I think that's enough to say. You know, it's bad enough when these things happen, but there was a whole lot of fallout, if you like, from that. But you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or something like that, people say. But it was a tough time. But all these things I can reflect on and genuinely say to you, these are things that I know have helped me, and I know they'll help other people in business. So shall we go on with the other 5? Okay, yeah. So my next thing is look for allies. And you might think this is a bit odd, because what we tend to do in business is look at the competition all the time, and we're always worrying about what our competitors are doing. But I'm saying look for allies. Look at other businesses that have the same customer base as you. We were really fortunate when we started one of our other businesses, which was in the dental business. We ended up meeting we were looking after dental practices and servicing them as businesses and as a payment scheme. And we met as a dental software company, and they needed to know that the sort of stuff we were doing fitted into their dental software, and we really needed to know that their dental software could cope with the sort of thing that we were doing, because if it didn't, then the dental practices wouldn't take it on. So we met these 2 companies actually who ended up sort of adopting us again. We could work together. It was a completely win-win situation. And what happened for us with this was that the one company were actually going to the biggest dental exhibition in the UK, I think possibly in Europe, at the NEC, not the NSC in Douglas, by the way, the NEC in Birmingham, at these massive halls, and they invited us to go with them to the show. So we couldn't have hardly afforded a ticket for the entrance, let alone to be on a stand. And they paid for this wonderful stand and invited us to go with them. So we had the opportunity to talk to their customers, who were obviously, of course, potentially our customers. So it was such a win-win opportunity. So I really encourage you to look out for allies, because you don't always have to worry about your competition. I mean, who'd have thought, thinking about allies now, who'd have thought that you could have bought M&S food in Costa Coffee? Who'd have thought that McDonald's took on Cadbury's as one of their sort of flagship things to have on your gorgeous McFlurry? You know, this is happening all the time. People are looking for allies. Look to work with people who've got the same customer base as you, that you can complement and nurture that sort of win-win situation. So the next thing is, number 7, is be resilient and think forward. And it sounds simple, doesn't it? Bounce back and think forward. Well, there's 2 things about this that's really important to me. The bounce back doesn't just come with bounce back and get on with it. You know, so if you were getting up from a punch and somebody just comes and punches you and you fall down, it's not enough just to get back up again. That's a good start. But if you don't learn from it, then you're kind of doomed, if you like. And I do see this so many times, and things do happen sort of cyclical, and you see these things sort of coming around again in business cycles, in life, and so on. But the important thing is that you be resilient bounce back, learn from it, and think forward. And this is the other thing that I think is really important, that you have that go-to. I'm a very sort of forward person. I like a solutions focus, want to keep moving things forward. And this is really important, that you're able to do this so that you can be pulled towards what you want. Our other little webinar a couple of weeks ago was about clarity and being really clear about what you want and what it is that you're going to be pulled forward to. The important thing for this is, as you're being pulled forward, you're able to apply this positive pressure. So you're not getting caught up in the past. You're from the point of the present, which is where everything happens, as we know, and you'll be able to put the positive pressure into moving forward and thinking forward. And the one thing I would say about this that's really important, you have to do these things at a behavioral level. You have to do something. And one of the really cool little sort of strategies, if you like, that I have seen for this is when you're stuck about what do I do, how am I resilient, how can I think forward, is a very simple little process called stop, start, or modify. And you just look at your business. If you're a bit stuck, then you just look at your business and think, what can I stop? Like, I'm sure there's lots of ideas for that in Justin's recommended book on essentialism, because I could certainly stop a whole load of stuff. What can I stop? What can I start? What can I modify? And if you're just considering something like that, I would say apply that. If you're struggling as to think, well, you know, what should I do in my business? But it's really important that you look at what you can actually do. So you're acting at a behavioral level on making sure that you bounce back and think forward. Okay, number 8, this is learn, grow, change, strive, control. All these things. It's about what we've been talking about in terms of getting yourself, having that self-awareness, learning new skills, and applying the things that you can do in your business. Staying in control is really, really important, but also finding efficiencies. Look at what you can do better. And if you want to start anywhere with this, I would say 2 areas. Your processes. So there's 2 things that sort of usually make money in business, or 2 things that business are about, and it's you put things to work or you put people to work. So you have like a production line that makes things, or you put people to work in the service industry. And if you look at these sort of things, the chances are you will find something that you can be more efficient at, or you can do better. And in particular, your customer journey. So if you look at your customer journey right from the point of how did they find you? What was the experience like when they found you? How did they end up negotiating with you? How did they buy? What was the experience like? What was the aftercare like? Have they become advocates of yours? Have you got a referral program signed up? Are you nurturing them for further business? You know, the whole customer journey. And if you break that down, that's where you'll find some efficiencies. That's how you'll work out how you can do things better, in my opinion. The other thing about control, I liken it to a horseback rider, if you like. So you think about like in one of our businesses, we had 4 directors. We had our financial director, who was Iceman. We had our operations director, who was our old woman. That we did call him that because he was our worrier and we needed that. My husband was the maverick, and I had the wonderful title of glue woman, because I kind of stuck it all together and made it work. Now, the maverick, we had to keep the reins on him. And sometimes it would take all 3 of us to take the reins, because we didn't know which direction he was going, and we really had to sort of stay in control. So think about that from your own point of view. Think about having the reins on your business and taking control, and making sure that you are steering your business in the right direction. So you can control your actions, you control your thoughts, and importantly, because we talked about physical and mental well-being, you can control your state while you are trying to operate your business. Number 9, so this one is let go or letting go. And I don't mean this in a way of wash your hands of it and right, that's it. Although sometimes that is the right thing. And of course, we have had to do that once, which was slightly out of our control. But this is more about surrendering in terms of letting go. So surrendering in as much as delegating, finding some help, surrendering to your team, allowing them to do the job that you've asked them to do. It's also about surrendering and slaying the demons. So surrender to the present and what you can do for the future, and slay the demons of the past. So this is where the letting go is really, really important. The other part about this is because if you don't slay the demons, then you're not going to make way for a good future. You've got to leave it behind. The other thing about letting go is the effect of the emotions. So I've had a bit of experience myself in terms of how emotions and stress can actually manifest itself in your body. And from this point of view, I'm talking about energy work, I'm talking about healing, I'm talking about EFT, these sort of things. But the 2 simplest things that I think you can do at this level for yourself, and it's very easily accessible. And number 1 is meditation. And that is because you allow yourself to have that mind dump so that you can just release all those thoughts. Online, there are just so many fantastic meditations. And the other thing is to have a break, to have a holiday. I think in business, we get so caught up in, and must keep going. And now with social media and everything else, it's sort of 24/7. You can't get away from it. I really urge you, no matter how difficult it is, how busy it is, I urge you to take a break. Now, obviously, a perfect break is a holiday where you can really switch off and go and totally relax. But I mean, even a break, even if you go up to Ramsey and stay at the Ramsey Park Hotel for the night or something, just to take yourself out of the business so that you can have a proper break. I know when things were tough and we had 2 small children, we always managed to get a holiday. And I promise you that every single time we had a holiday, we came back recharged, more creative, better people. It's just so important. So the letting go, let it be whatever that message you need to hear from that at this moment in time. But slay those demons, let go, surrender, hand over, delegate, and make sure that you take a break so that you can let go of this tumble dry of information in your head and come back refreshed. Okay, so the last one. This is the sort of summing up, if you like. You'll be relieved to know. So I'm saying become a warrior, because I think that's what you need to be in business. And I don't mean necessarily a fighter, because although perhaps you've got to be a bit of a fighter sometimes when you're sort of hanging on. Pay attention to everything that you've learned and put it into practice. We've all had experience in life. We've all had experience in business. We've all done some amazing things in our life, which if you look back on and you look from how far you've come, you look back and think, wow, I can't believe that I've actually done that and get to where I am now. So we've all got that experience. But we've also got the experience of the things, the mistakes that we don't want to repeat. So become that warrior. Pay attention to everything that you've learned, the good and the bad, so that you can be that person to look at. I'm just going to look at this because I just can't quite see the screen. So I'm looking at all of those things for you to become a warrior so that you take a risk, that you're thinking about survival, that you're accountable to someone, that you're strong and brave, that you can reinvent yourself, that you go out and look for allies, that you can bounce back and think forward, that you're in control, that you can let go and you can slay the demons. If you were a warrior would take a risk. They would survive. They would be accountable. They would be strong and brave. They'd reinvent themselves. They'd find allies. They'd bounce back. They'd think forward, and they'd stay in control, and they'd definitely slay the demons. And that's what it takes to beat a recession, I believe.
Good, thank you, Jan. Would anybody like to ask any questions? Before you do ask a question, if you're going to, Susan says that you just booked 2 holidays. Get you, where are you going? Just tell us, just to motivate us, Susan.
Well, don't get too excited. They're both Spain, but one's a yoga retreat, actually. So hopefully do quite a few warriors.
Beautiful, beautiful. Ticks all the boxes.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Sounds great.
I just wondered whether, I mean, obviously, please let's chat. And if you've got any questions, let's talk about it. But I just wondered if it might be useful if you wanted to just have a think now about something that you might want to do out of any one of those things. If there was something that you think, yes, I could apply that. Write down maybe 3 action points from something that you've heard that you think, yes, I could apply that. Do you want to do that, or do you want to discuss that, or is there something that springs to mind, or do you just want me to shut up for a few minutes while you do that?
I feel like I'm doing all of them at the minute. Anyway, I'm doing all of them within reason.
Good.
Wow.
Do you have a coach or a mentor, Emma?
So, not officially. However, I do have one person who I touch base with occasionally and download with, and he offers me some advice. But he's an unofficial mentor. He wouldn't even like to put himself in that category. But I have recently been approached by somebody else who's sort of tentatively offered to be my mentor, and I'm really keen to start something up with him. And so that's a big thing that I do think I would like. And he's also a strategy. He is a strategist as well, which is amazing for what I need right now. So.
Excellent. I'd say absolutely give it a go. Because for me personally, having a coach, having a really great coach is been so useful, so eye-opening, and it really helps you to think through issues. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I agree.
And sometimes you can get that sort of inspiration and support in groups as well. Sometimes, there might be a particular group that you're a member of, that you join in with podcasts or webinars and so on. And sometimes that can work as that, if you're prepared to perhaps buddy up with someone to sort of share some kind of accountability strategy with them. Yeah. But I think an individual person, if you're lucky enough to find somebody, that will act as your mentor, that looks a brilliant opportunity, Emma. Then I really think it's just so worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Keeps you on track. Excellent. So, I don't know if there's any other questions or comments. And if not, then we can just tell you what we're up to for the next, well, Justin can tell you what we've got planned for some future events.
Well, the next evening webinar is going to be about sabotage, the topic of sabotage. And that doesn't mean somebody coming in and sabotaging your business, although that can happen. If you're hiring and recruitment process isn't isn't good, then that can happen. It's more about self-sabotage, and how we trip ourselves up, how we prevent ourselves from being successful, and how to identify and deal with limiting beliefs that we have as well. Limiting beliefs like imposter syndrome, thinking everybody else is perfectly competent, whilst we're any moment now we're going to be found out for being absolutely useless at what we do, or knowing nothing, or whatever. Imposter syndrome like, I don't really deserve this success. Imposter syndrome like, well, you know, people are just being nice, they don't really like me, or they don't like my product or my service. So it's that dealing with that kind of mental state, and really unpicking that is very, very useful in moving forward. So if you've ever experienced any of that, then you'd be very welcome. On the, oh, I forget what date it is now. Is it the 12th of April, Jan? I think it's the 12th of April. We'll advertise.
I'm really sorry, I haven't got it in front of me. Yeah, great.
The other thing
And
that we are
then
doing,
on the
sorry.
13th.
Sorry, you
Yes.
say, Jan, go on.
No, you go.
Okay, on the 13th and 14th of May, we're going to be at the Mill House in Santon, running our business retreat. It runs from Saturday afternoon right through Sunday, and we're going to be doing more stuff like Jan has been covering today. There are going to be exercises to do, activities, tools for you to use in your own business. So if you would like to join us, there's you can look on my website, justintipperconsulting.com, for the details of that, and send us an email or sign up via Eventbrite. And we'd love to see you there. Love you to join us for a day and a half of working on your business rather than working in your business. I think it'll be really, really interesting.
Yes, I'm very excited about that, because we're using the hero's journey and we've transferred it into the entrepreneur's journey because of these things that we recognize as the cyclical nature of what happens in business. And so we're able to put some academia in, some models, some tools, and some real life sort of examples. And as Justin said, we've got time to actually work on our own businesses in that, and it's such a beautiful setting. I don't know if you've been down to the mill in Santon, but we've got some lovely home cooked food and a lovely space for us to work in, and we're going to have dinner as well on the Saturday night. So It should be something different. It is a retreat and it's very immersive and practical.